Thank you for joining us here at Lowry Sports Rhetoric. I am your host, Nathan.
And I'm Damon.
And today we're going to continue in the NFC South with the Carolina Panthers. In 2021, they went 5-2. They were fourth in the NFC South, and they did not make the playoffs. Last year, offensively, they were 30th in yards and 29 in points.
That's
That's rough. Defensively, second in yards allowed and 21 in points allowed, which is a very big differential between those two. It's very fascinating.
It's odd that can even be possible.
Yeah. So that's like the opposite of a bend but don't break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a break all the time.
Yeah. It is interesting now.
I think it's probably shows you that their offense is putting their defense in bad situations a lot. Short yardage, a lot of short fields that the other team had, or turnovers putting them right in a position to score. That would be my guess as to why that stat's the way it is.
That absolutely makes a lot of sense. All right, you got GM Scott Fitterer. He's been there 1 year since 2021, his first year. Kind of hard to gauge what he's doing down there. Obviously, when somebody's in their first year, I think being aggressive and trying to go after Baker kind of maybe goes in his favor a little bit.
Yeah. So he was the one that brought in Darnold. So he swung and missed on Darnold. I think we could say.
No, I think Darnold was there before that.
Was Darnold there before him?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, if he was not responsible for Darnold, and he is the one that went after Baker, and was rumored to be going hard after some of the other quarterbacks.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe Baker was there. Maybe is it Darnold was only there 1 year?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But you know what? I mean, I don't even fault him for that, because you're trying something. You know your quarterback situation's not good. You're hoping, Darnold was a top 5 pick. He didn't work out. You try him. You hope that maybe your coaching staff can get out of him, but the Jets couldn't. And so I don't necessarily fault that. And then he moved on quick.
Sure.
And there was rumors even before the Baker thing that he was, trying to get in on some of those other quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I think there is a good sign that he was aggressively trying to address the most important position in football.
Absolutely. Yep. Coach Matt Rule, 2 years in now. This will be his third year from 2020. He's 10-23 for his record overall.
That's not good.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not good.
I feel like, when we start getting into this, the personnel there is actually pretty good. Like they got some good supporting characters. They got some good stuff going on. So yeah, you're not really getting a ton of results. Now I do think injuries have played a factor for sure.
Sure, McCaffrey especially.
So, yeah, like injuries to important people. You know what I mean? Important people on the team. So
yeah, and I think here's the thing. Like that, you can use that for a couple of years, but ultimately, if he doesn't have a good year this year, he could be in trouble.
Sure. But we'll get into what they added and see if he's done enough here to put them in contention here. Free agent additions, we have Austin Corbett, guard out of the Rams. Got Xavier Woods, safety out of Minnesota. I like him.
I like Woods. I think he's a solid safety.
He's a solid safety. That was a good
addition.
One. Yeah. Johnny Hecker, punter out of the Rams.
He's a heck of a punter.
Mm-hmm. Damian Wilson, outside linebacker from Jacksonville. Matthew Ioannidis, defensive end out of Washington. Bradley Bozeman, center out of Baltimore. The guy you like a lot?
I wanted him on the Bears. I think he's a very solid center to build your line around. So I think that's a great addition for them at the center position right there.
Absolutely. Rashad Higgins, wide receiver out of Cleveland.
I think he could have some potential still to... He maybe had, in my mind, he hasn't necessarily reached his full potential yet.
Sure. Chris Westry, cornerback out of Baltimore. All right. Now we're going to get into Carolina free agent losses.
Okay.
We got Hessian Reddick, outside linebacker to Philadelphia, which, it's a decent player. Stephen Gilmore, cornerback to Indianapolis, which I am super excited about, especially if he can still be the guy he has been. I think injury last year, is that kind of setbacks on him?
Yeah, and he's getting a little bit on the older side. I think to me the biggest thing here is he just doesn't fit the timeline of their window. He aged out of their window, in my opinion. So even though it is a definite loss, I don't think that's a loss that you really get too upset about if you're a Panthers fan, because it makes sense to let him walk at this stage.
Absolutely.
They're not in the win now stage. You guys are.
And it makes
more sense for him to be on your team than theirs.
That's right. Exactly.
In my opinion.
Exactly, yeah. Makes sense for everybody overall.
I think so.
Daquan Jones, defensive tackle to Buffalo. Jermaine Carter, linebacker to Kansas City.
I was going to say with Jones, I kind of feel the same with Jones as I do with Gilmore, right?
It just doesn't fit into what they're doing at the moment.
I think he's a win now kind of player. Buffalo's a win now team.
Yep.
So I think that makes sense.
Jermaine Carter, linebacker to Kansas City. Morgan Fox, defensive end to the Chargers. Amir Abdul, running back to Vegas. Trenton Scott, guard to Pittsburgh. Alex Grixon, wide receiver to Washington. And Kiram Harwalala, I'm sorry, kicker to Dallas.
He's a kicker. Who cares?
Yeah.
So the wide receiver, I think Higgins is an upgrade over that, so I don't see that as a big loss. I think other than like the two veterans.
Yeah. And like you said, that kind of makes sense for that.
Yeah, I don't think they had a terrible.
I think Reddick was kind of a loss.
Yeah, but I think if you look at outgoing versus incoming, and then the fact that, the difference between starting to rebuild versus being ready to win right now.
Right.
I think their offseason makes sense.
Sure.
Like I want to give it a huge 2 thumbs up, but I'm not necessarily negative just on the
absolutely
signings versus losses
absolutely.
Aspect of things.
Absolutely. All right, and then now we'll discuss trades. There was a big trade here, and I'm glad that we waited to do this one. We were going, instead of we did all the AFC first.
Yeah, we would have done the NFC before the AFC. This would
missed
have
out
been
on
a
this one.
completely different video.
Okay, trades. Baker Mayfield from the Browns. They gave up a 2024 fifth round pick or fourth with if he plays 70% of the snaps. I personally myself think that this is an upgrade over Sam Darnold. I know people kind of disagree with that. I see a lot of Carolina fans upset that they went and got Baker. Oh, this is more of the same, blah, 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 blah. The worst season that he had, and we'll get into it when we get into his stats, was last year. He had his arm falling off, basically, you know what I mean? And he played through it, so he didn't have the greatest year. That year is on par with Sam Darnold's best year when he played for the Jets. So, yes, this is an upgrade.
So you're saying when his worst year is as good as the other guy's best year,
yes,
then that means they're not equal?
No.
That's what you're saying?
That's right.
Oh, okay.
That's right. And you know what? And I have to say this, like we live in Oklahoma. People down here treat this guy like he's too good, like he's a god almost. You know what I mean? Look, he's not that. You know what I mean?
In Oklahoma, he's overrated.
He's overrated. Everywhere
it sounds
else,
like in Carolina especially, he's underrated.
Yeah, I mean,
This
I
kid
do
can
feel
play.
like
He can.
He can.
He's not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes.
No.
But he's better than Sam Darnold. He's proven at this point to be better than Sam Darnold.
Yeah, if you're upset about that, I don't know what to tell you. I think that's a good. It was a good.
He's
decision.
also better than Teddy Bridgewater. He's proven to be better than Teddy Bridgewater.
Absolutely.
Who did they have before Teddy Bridgewater? He's probably proven to be better than that guy too.
Yeah. I don't know. Cam Newton.
Yeah, I think he's better. I think he's better than Cam Newton.
Well, right now,
especially right now.
currently.
I don't know, maybe always. Anyway, here's what I was gonna say. If you go and watch if anybody that watched the Cleveland video is watching this video, you know that I thought that it would be a stupid thing for Cleveland to trade Baker, considering the unknowns around Watson. So I am just shocked that they made that trade, and to trade him for a fifth round pick that possibly could be a fourth. I mean, if I'm Carolina, this is okay. So when we talked about taking your shot with Darnold, like this is a low risk chance at a solid quarterback who's proven, like you just said, to have a better floor. He has a much better floor than Darnold does.
Absolutely.
And you're at worst giving up a fourth round pick for him. I mean, that is worth a try. And if it doesn't work out, he's in the last year of his contract. You let him walk. You didn't lose a whole lot. If it works out, you sign him to an extension, and you got your guy for the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, that's.
And as we talk about some of these players, you're talking about like they do put themselves in a position where, like you said, so what if they have him, he doesn't work out, they can move on past him. It doesn't set them back a whole bunch, and now you have a team put around that can actually sign a free agent quarterback or get one out of the draft. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, if over the next couple of years you build this into a playoff team, like Baker is good enough to take a good team to the playoffs.
Yeah, he is.
So if you build this team up and they go to the playoffs and they get bounced a couple years in a row, and even if you send them to like a 4-year extension, 5-year extension, and you structure it so that you can get rid of him in the last like year or two of that contract, and you spend 3 years building around him, and then decide he's not the guy, then yeah, you're going to be in a position that you can let him bounce and bring in the guy after that. So yeah, to me, this is a very smart signing.
Yeah, it's low risk.
It's low risk, and you know, maybe Matt Carroll proves to be the guy of the future, but having Baker go out there and play right now makes sense over Carroll because, well, I guarantee you this: Matt Rule's happy that he's not starting Matt Carroll because his job, like we said a couple minutes ago, his job, he's probably in the hot seat. Honestly, he's not one a rookie.
No.
He didn't want Sam Darnold rolling out there again. I guarantee you, Matt Rule's happy that they made this deal for Baker.
Absolutely, he is. All right, we're going to go ahead and get in what they did here in the draft. Round 1, number 6 overall. Akeem Ekwonu, I don't know. Offensive tackle out of North Carolina State. This guy is a monster.
He's a good player.
Yeah,
he's a good player.
He's a good player.
And you know what? Baker's going to be glad to have him.
Dude, absolutely.
Because he's not going to be taking shots.
Absolutely. All right, round 3, number 94, Matt Carroll, quarterback out of Ole Miss. I did forget to mention that at the beginning. You're right. They might not even have to draft a quarterback if Matt Carroll ends up being a good quarterback. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think the interesting thing about Matt Carroll and Baker as a pairing is that I think they do have a somewhat similar skill set.
Sure.
So I think that works too. Like if Baker's not the guy,
the system's still building.
Then if Baker works short term, you sign him to an extension, and then in 2 years he proves not to be the guy. But in the meantime, you think Matt Carroll is, then Baker's not a terrible backup for Matt Carroll. It just depends on how good he does and what kind of money he wants. So yeah, I mean I think that you have a chance that you have a guy for a future. And there's 2 different chances that you got your guy for the future that they did here, and it cost you a 3rd and a 4th round pick. And anybody that pays attention to the NFL should know that's a cheap way to address the quarterback position. Because normally it takes.
I definitely agree with you.
I mean, we've thrown so many first round picks in the last 10 years at our quarterback position, and none of them panned out. So throwing a 3rd and a 4th at the position, and it might end up being a better situation than we have. Like, I don't know. If you're complaining about that as a Panther fan, I'm sorry, but I don't think your guy did a bad job of addressing it.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they picked Matt Carroll where they picked him if they were going to pick him.
Yeah.
A lot of temptation avoided in this year's draft with jumping up on taking quarterbacks too high. I didn't feel like any of them were first-round picks. I know Peter got picked, but
we talked about that a lot in our post-draft video about how much constraint teams showed, and this is a great example of one. This is a team that absolutely needed a quarterback. They got a guy that some people were rumored to be a first-round pick in the 3rd round, where he is worth that risk.
Absolutely. All right, round 4, number 120, Brandon Smith, linebacker out of Penn State.
I like Brandon Smith a lot as a middle linebacker. Think that he has the potential to be a real solid
and this team's done
leader on the defense down the road.
And this team has been doing a good job of building a young defense through the draft. Every year we kind of see that. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Round 6, number 189, Amir Barno, linebacker out of Virginia Tech.
He's a very good athlete. Very good athlete.
Round 6, number 199, Cade Mays, offensive lineman out of Tennessee. Don't know much about him. Round 7, number 242, Kalen Barnes, cornerback out of Baylor. Fun fact, he's the fastest player in the draft, running a 4.23, and he comes from Baylor.
That was the combine freak that everybody was talking about. Maybe doesn't have the best ball skills, but with that kind of speed, special teams, familiarity with the coach. Like, yeah, you know for sure that Matt Rule was involved in recruiting him, is familiar with how athletic he is, and probably has a plan on how to utilize that athleticism.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and get into to the Panther starters, projected starters here. So the quarterback is Baker Mayfield is what's being projected. I think that's correct in my opinion, but I know that there's supposed to be a competition. He had 3,010 yards, 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 134 rushing yards, and a touchdown with his arm falling off.
I mean, he was hurt. So, okay, a couple of things too. I mean, we talked about this in the Browns video a little bit. So if you want the full in-depth thoughts on this, you can go to watch the Browns video. But a key thing too, in addition to the injury that he played through, they also had injuries to the running backs, which meant that he was stuck throwing the ball more and in bad situations more than he normally is because their running backs were banged up and they were not getting the production on the running game that they normally do. So I think there was a it was a much more complicated situation with Baker this year than like go look at his stats from last year and you'll get or the year before,
Right.
and you'll get a better idea of what Baker really can do if he's got good weapons around him. And we're going to talk about here in a minute. I think he's got some decent weapons around him here.
Yep. All right. Running back Christian McCaffrey. Last year, 442 yards, 1 touchdown, 343 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown. He was injured. That was only in 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, he's been injured a lot frequently, but if he can stay healthy, he's one of the most exciting players in football.
Absolutely. Yeah, the numbers that he puts up and the workhorse mentality that he has, I put this guy a lot in the category of a guy like, Carson Wentz, for example, or like one of my all-time favorite players, Bob Sanders, used to do this. They play with reckless abandonment, so they're not always on the field, but when they are on the field, they are some of the most dangerous people out there. Like I said, people out there getting hurt playing with reckless abandonment is not a good thing.
You could even say your boy Andrew Luck was like that.
Sure, Andrew Luck was absolutely like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. So yeah, I mean, it would be. I would love to see him stay healthy because when he's healthy, he definitely puts up numbers. Am I skeptical that he can stay healthy? I am. I am at this point in time. I absolutely am skeptical of it. But
Well, I think what they really need to do is get another. They need to get a workhorse back and let him be the jack of all trades,
Yeah.
slot guy, change of pace back, third down guy, and not necessarily be the main running back. That way, he's not getting pounded on. He can still make those big, exciting plays.
Yeah.
I think that's honestly the direction I would like to see them go with him. We'll see if they do, but that's what I would be happy to see as a big McCaffrey fan.
Yeah.
Just going back to his Stanford days, I love watching the kid at Stanford.
Me too.
Like, I would like to see that because he's fun to watch.
Yeah. All right. Wide receiver DJ Moore.
Good wide receiver.
Oh, great wide receiver. 93 receptions, 1,157 yards, and 4 touchdowns. They got Robbie Anderson, wide receiver, 53 yards, 519 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
Which that's a down year for him. He's
Yeah.
normally better than that.
Yeah, maybe didn't get utilized as much as he should have. And then wide receiver Terrace Marshall Jr., rookie last year, 17 receptions, 138 yards, but he had some injury issues.
Absolute stud when he was at LSU.
Yeah, and I think that the projection there is that he is going to have a lot of upside and that he's going to be able to make some good plays.
I think that's a very strong
wide receiver.
three receivers right there. 1 through 3, that's a very strong group. And, I would even say that challenges what Baker had in Cleveland.
I actually think it's better. So it's interesting when you look at last year, when you look at a lot of these players here, you're talking about that. And last year they were 30th and 29th, in these offensive stats and stuff like that. I think it just goes to show you that the quarterback was absolutely needing to move on. And again, like I said, they had some injury issues, some major injury issues.
Were we talking about Higgins? They brought in Higgins too, right? Was that this team?
Higgins, yeah, I think
from
so.
Cleveland, right? So he has familiarity with. So that's your number 4 receiver, and he has familiarity with Baker. I think that's even another. That's a quality number 4 receiver too. So this is a nice receiving core. I really like if McCaffrey can stay healthy. This is a nice team.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So yeah, like I said, I think that's going to be much better than he's had. So Baker is going to utilize those guys a lot. And Robbie Anderson's kind of built for the kind of play that Baker is anyways. You know what I mean? He's high possession, stuff like that. So.
Well, yeah, and I think that Baker, when going back to his Oklahoma days, when Baker's at his best is when he's scrambling around just playing backyard football. So having a guy that's kind of heady, that's kind of smart, that can find the holes in the zone, that can read what Baker's wanting to do, and he's about to roll out left, I'm going to cut across this and just kind of ad-lib. I think that's a benefit, and I think both Moore and Anderson probably fit that role pretty well.
Absolutely.
Much better than, say, I don't know, Odell Beckham, for example.
Yeah.
I think that those guys are probably better fits for Baker than maybe Beckham and Landry were, even if. And I might even I was going to say it's arguable that Beckham and Landry are better receivers than those guys, but I don't even know that that's necessarily true.
I don't think it is true. I got to be honest with you.
And I think that they're better fits for Baker, so that's even better.
Sure. All right, tight end Tommy Tremble to add on to that. He was a rookie last year, 20 receptions, 108 yards, and a touchdown. Probably going to see some more work this year. Then they got fullback Giovanni Ricci. Their line looks like left tackle Ikem Ekwuna, the rookie that they drafted, left guard Pat Elfine, center Bradley Bozeman, right guard Austin Corbett, and right tackle Taylor Moton. That sounds like a decent line, at least.
Well, I think it's definitely a young, full of potential type line.
Absolutely.
With the center being a proven commodity that, like I said at the beginning, we liked him as a free agent signing. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think when you look at that offense, it's got potential. Is it like, it's not, it's not Kansas City's offense. It's not Buffalo's offense. It's not a proven commodity. But there's a lot of potential there for it to be a good offense. Certainly should be better than 29th in the league like it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, like as far as I'm concerned, as long as everybody can stay healthy, including McCaffrey, I think that I personally think it's a very good looking offense. I think it looks very, very dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of playmakers there, and Baker's good enough to make playmakers.
Yeah, I think people are going to find that Baker, with the people that he's got around him in Carolina, might shock some people, and he's going to play way better than everybody is giving him credit for.
And we talked about this in the Cleveland video, going back to his Oklahoma days, going back to his Texas Tech days. When Baker has a chip on his shoulder and feels like he has something to prove, he finds another level. And if you don't think Baker's going to have a chip on his shoulder and feel like he has something to prove going into this season, especially in a contract year, I mean, I really expect him to have a good year. And I think that this team will benefit from it, and it'll help Matt Rule probably save his job. So, now how good they can be, I don't know, but they're going to be considerably better than I think they'll be in the playoff hunt anyway.
All right.
We'll get to that later. I'm sorry. I'm jumping the gun.
Panthers starters or defense. Left defensive end, Brian Burns. Last year had 50 tackles, 9 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 pass deflects.
So one of my Knowles, I love him.
Left defensive tackle, Derek Brown, 41 tackles, 3 sacks, 4 pass deflects. Right defensive tackle, Matt Ioannidis came over from Washington, 38 tackles, 2.5 sacks. And then right defensive end, Yader Gross Matos, 28 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 pass deflect. I think that there's definitely a lot of potential there.
I think those are decent stats so far. Like, they're okay.
Yeah. But
potentially be better.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it will. You're talking about like a lot of young players. Like I said, they have done a really good job of adding some of these guys in the draft that are now starting to kind of come into their own. I think they have a lot of potential, and I think that's like I said, it's a lot of growth there. Could be.
And like we speculated at the beginning, and we didn't watch them week in and week out like Panthers fans did, so maybe they would disagree with this, but the speculation being the offense probably put them in bad situations a lot, and that's why you had that weird stat of the scoring versus the yardage.
Yeah.
So that's going to affect those kind of stats too, where it's not going to look as good if they weren't on the field as much as a normal team. So having a better offense can help them look a lot better too.
Holding people to second in yards allowed, that's impressive, and we'll continue to get onto this defense. Linebacker Shaq Thompson, 104 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 interception, and 5 pass deflects. Middle linebacker Damian Wilson, 106 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, 5 pass deflects. Came over from the Jags. Corey Littleton, 98 tackles, a half sack, 1 fumble recovery, and 4 pass deflects. Came over from the Raiders. And then, so that's their linebacking core.
Yeah, I think when you add that to that front 7 looks pretty solid to me.
Yeah.
Pretty solid, young, more potential, probably more to give than they give so far.
Yeah.
Looks pretty solid.
Yeah, not completely proven yet, but on paper it looks like there is a lot of potential for a lot of plays to be made out here. So.
And then I think one of the best players on their team is coming here in the secondary. Guy I love. Sure. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
Sure. Okay. And then all right. So cornerbacks. Left cornerback Dante Jackson, 61 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions, and 10 pass deflects. Pretty decent. Jeremy Chin, a guy I like a lot.
That's the guy I was talking about. Yeah, I love this kid.
Yeah, so do I. 107 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interceptions, and 5 pass deflects. I just see this guy getting better.
Everything. Yeah,
I just see this guy getting better.
He's young and he's already putting up pretty good numbers. Yeah.
Chin has a lot of potential ceiling there.
I think so too.
Okay, and then Xavier Woods coming over from the Vikings last year had 108 tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, and 10 pass deflects. Another guy that's kind of all over the place with his stats, and that's what you like to see there at that position. So.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 safeties, it's a lot of versatility. That's a lot of ability to clean up if that front 7 doesn't get it done. And we already talked about how good we think. I mean, this is a pretty impressive defense. It
And
really
then
is.
a guy with a ton of potential and didn't get to necessarily realize that at all last year is cornerback J.C. Horn. He was a rookie last year, but he did have injuries. He only played in 3 games. 5 tackles, 1 interception, 1 pass deflect. I got a feeling if he's back on that field, it's going to be a much better stat line. I mean, obviously. So.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so going through, now that we're done going through the lineups, I mean, that's both sides of the ball, young, impressive, potential to get better.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, this isn't the AFC that we talked about that's loaded. This is the NFC. There's room for a team to sneak into the playoffs that maybe you're not talking about. I like the chances of this team getting a wild card.
I do too. I mean, I think that the thing that's going to go against them, and we'll get into it more in our next video, but I think that you have Tampa Bay, which is dangerous for anybody in the NFC, and that's not somebody that they're ready to compete with, I think, fully like that. And then you've got the Saints, which it's going to be an interesting to see between these two who can come in that second spot. You know.
But I think the other thing that you can say you're fortunate about is there's 3 wild cards.
Yeah.
One we'll get to one later, but I don't think the East or the North is very good.
I'm probably going to disagree with you on some of that, but
I don't think the East or the North is very good.
Yeah.
I could see this team having a better record than.
Stay tuned for those videos because I think we're going to disagree a lot.
I just think that this team has a chance to compete. I'm not rubber stamping them. I'm saying there's a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I
with
like the team.
With the potential on both sides of the field. I mean,
I think that's the biggest thing for me is that not only it's the potential. Like you said, you got all these young players in these positions on both sides of the field that really do actually look good when you put all those pieces together and look at it. If they can stay healthy, I think that it could very much shock people how much of a turnaround the Carolina Panthers could have. So I would not be surprised to see them make that in the wild card. So yes, they improved. Then is that what we're talking about here for the offseason?
I think it's definite improvement.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that. It's a plus for the GM, but it also means, I mean, Rule better be able to get 7 or 8 wins minimum out of this team, or it's probably time to move on.
I mean, I definitely see that as a realistic goal. 7, 8 wins. You know what I mean? I definitely do.
Like I think if you combine what he's already done.
So you think if he gets 7 or 8 wins, he's done his job. Okay.
I think if he's done 7 or 8 wins, that's enough of an improvement that you got to give him at least another year at least.
Well, there you go.
But if he can't get at least 7, if they're 5, 6 wins again,
yeah,
with as much talent as it appears like there's on paper,
it certainly looks like they got a bunch.
Then and Rule's not the GM's guy. They brought in a new GM. He's not the guy that brought Rule in. So if I'm that GM, I'm going, hey, we got talent. I brought in Baker. I did what I needed to do. This guy's not getting it done. It's probably time to move on. Yeah. And that's because somebody that liked the Matt Rule signing or hire when they made it, but he just hasn't got it done yet. Yeah. So that would be, I would say all in all, it's this offseason. It was too early to do that, but we'll talk about next offseason's video. If they win 5 wins and they keep him, then I'm going to be critical of that next offseason. So. But hopefully, hey, if you're a Panthers fan, hopefully they win what I think they could win, which is like 8, 9, maybe even 10 games and sneak into that wild card. And then we won't be talking about Rule being on the hot seat. We'll be talking about how good of a job the GM did to turn things around and where the team can go from the future.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for joining us here at Lowry Sports Rhetoric. Thank you for giving us a watch. If you got anything out of this content, give us a like, give us a subscribe.
And, hey, comments. Okay? We love comments. Check out that Jacksonville video, all the comments we had there. If you don't like what we had to say about your team, let us know what you didn't like. But please bring something more than just, you guys are trash. Like, I hate that. Tell us why we're trash. Tell us what we got wrong so we can address it. Rhetoric, we put rhetoric in the name because we want to have conversations with people. We love talking sports. That's what we're about. That's why we're doing this channel. So bring a conversation to us. Don't just bring, you guys are trash.
All right. Thank you for giving us a watch, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.